Thank you. All right, welcome to Life's Not Linear. Today I get to interview Michael Hostad. Michael, if you could please introduce yourself.
Great, thanks, and hi everyone. My name is Michael Hostad. I am the executive director of a nonprofit here in Milwaukee called The Commons, which is an initiative of a larger agency called the Greater Milwaukee Committee.
And then what do you do for the Commons, or I guess what is the Commons, if you could dive into that a bit more.
Yeah, sure. So the Commons has been around for 6 years now, and we help students, college students in particular, to think like innovators and entrepreneurs, creative problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration, and working together. Ultimately, we're doing what we can to help keep young talent here in the Milwaukee area and show all the great opportunities Milwaukee has to offer for our young talent. So
That's awesome.
It's been an exciting program, and you've been through it, Tara.
Yeah, it is definitely. I love the Commons, so I'm biased, but yeah, it's been great. So how did you, I guess, backtrack? Like, how did you even get to like starting the Commons and being part of this initiative?
You know, I have a standing joke that I think all of my colleagues are tired of by now, but I'd like to say that I'm a recovering IT professional. So my background and what I went to school for was all IT. I was very interested in technology when I was younger and through high school. I'll date myself a little bit here, but I kind of got introduced to tech when the internet was a new thing, when web pages were something that were new things. And I started to just kind of understand how to build websites. I was just intrigued by how these things worked and what it made, what you had to do to build them. And so I learned a programming language called HTML, which was kind of the code base for websites back in the day, it still is. And started to build a website. And I built a website through high school that almost got shut down by the Fox Broadcasting Company because I was recording Simpsons videos and putting them online, which you can't do, I learned. But as 14-year-old Michael, what the heck did I know? And so anyway, so that kind of started that passion in IT. When I graduated high school, I went to Waukesha County Technical College and got my associate's degree in programming and computer networking. And, was really just content to kind of be in the tech world. There was nothing like the Commons when I was growing up to teach me that running a business was a viable career option for me. And so I got a real job and closed down the business, even though I had clients across the country building websites for them. But started at Strong Funds, which was a financial company back in the day. It's now Wells Fargo. And was managing their mutual fund profile pages and a lot of their web assets. And it was not really a fit for me. I didn't enjoy that space. Great people, but the work I was doing wasn't really hitting on all cylinders for me. And lasted there a little less than a year and got a job at UW Milwaukee, where I really fit in and found my place in higher ed and in academia. And got a job managing the website just for the IT department, and then grew that to managing the website for the whole campus. Built a team of 17 people over the years. I was at UWM for, I think, almost 14 years by the time all was said and done. But that's probably the point at which my career kind of was not linear, to use your words, Tara. And I got connected to a guy named Mike Lovell. If that name sounds familiar, Mike was the chancellor at UWM, now currently the president at Marquette. And he really became my mentor. Mike saw in me what I had been doing in my teens, which was running a business, and that entrepreneurial spirit that I had in an environment in academia was welcome at UWM. And Mike encouraged that behavior in me, and so before I knew it, I was reporting half-time directly to him as his designee for entrepreneurship and innovation. And really started taking more and more steps away from the day-to-day technical aspects of my job, and getting more involved in kind of the startup world. And as his designee, I found myself in different community groups. That's how I got connected to the Greater Milwaukee Committee as his designee on a project called Scale Up Milwaukee, which is still around today, that helps companies to grow. And so, so I think that that was really the point at which that movement from tech into kind of the community space that I'm in right now really started to happen. And that was a lot of Mike sort of encouraging me to get out of my comfort zone a little bit.
That's awesome how it just kind of like naturally, organically happened. Like you met Mike, and then so he brought you or kind of involved you in Scale Up Milwaukee. And then how did you get like into the GMC, and how did like, I guess, what happened from there? What Scale Up, and then what are the steps to the Commons?
Yeah, so that was a real sort of moment in my career, I think. So a lot of things sort of happened all at once, and it was a kind of a perfect storm in I guess a good way. So I had been working on Scale Up Milwaukee as Mike's designee, and got to know the great people over at the Greater Milwaukee Committee as we were kind of putting together this program and launching it. And when Mike announced that he was leaving UWM to go to Marquette, I got a call out of the blue from Julia Taylor, who's the president of the Greater Milwaukee Committee, and she said to me, "Why don't you let's get together and talk about your future?" And I thought to myself, I didn't even think she knew my name, So we got together, and she said to me, we're hiring for this innovation position at the GMC, and would love for you to apply. I think it would be great for you. And so, so I left that meeting I was a little dumbfounded. I hadn't really given much thought. Here, like in the span of a week, my mentor says, I'm leaving to go to Marquette, and I get Julia saying, "Why don't you think about coming to work at the GMC?" And so it was a lot to kind of take in all at once, especially when I was very comfortable at UWM. I liked it there. So I remember getting in the car and texting Mike and being like, "Hey, so this happened. Can we talk about this?" And he texted me back, and it was very short and direct. And he said, "Meet me in my office first thing Monday morning." And I thought, "Oh shit, I made it mad,"
Yeah.
and so I was kind of like nervous over the weekend,
Oh
and
no.
sat down with Mike on Monday, and he's like, Michael, he's like, "I've thought about this all weekend for you," and he's like, "I really think you should consider this opportunity." And we kind of talked through what my future might have looked like at UWM, and what my future might look like at the GMC, but most importantly, what I wanted to be doing in my career. And it wasn't so much that I left UWM because there wasn't a future for me there. It was I left to take this job at the GMC because I wanted a different path for my career, and that was really to get further engaged in the community, and get involved there. And that's where the GMC has been around since the 40s and has been behind a lot of major community development efforts in that time. And so I knew the history of the organization, and that was something I wanted to be a part of. So that was sort of the point where everything really shifted for me. And I've been at the GMC now for a little over 6 years.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Wow,
So,
that's a
and
big shift.
yeah. And so, so the Commons kind of got started. Mike and I were talking about like the idea of the Commons along
Mm.
with a couple of other people, before he left for UWM, or before he left for Marquette, excuse me. And so, we joke that we transitioned within like weeks of each other. So he went to Marquette, and then a couple of weeks later, I was over at the GMC. And so I joked that my second day on the job, I was in Mike's office at Marquette saying, "Hey, do you remember that idea we were thinking about?" Then we didn't know it was going to be the Commons, but we
Mm.
had this thought of like, what if you could bring students from 24 different colleges and universities in the area and start teaching them about how to think like an entrepreneur, how to be innovative, how to creatively solve problems? And that's really kind of how the Commons was born. Mike pulled together his peers. We had 24 college presidents and chancellors in one room together on Marquette's campus. It was crazy.
That is like a powerful room.
It was a very
I'd
powerful
be
room, and
so
all of
intimidated.
I was terrified. And like Marquette, I don't know if they have like this boardroom up on the top floor of the Union there, and it's like this giant like UN style like horseshoe giant table, and that's what we were presenting in this room, and all of these, like, it was like the United Nations. It was like all these different campus presidents and chancellors at a table, and me and Joe and Matt and Maggie were up there going like, so we've kind of got this idea. We don't know what it's going to be or where it's going to go, but all we want from you is access to your students. We want to try and put on this amazing, at the time, it was just a weekend event. We said, it's not going to cost you anything. It's not going to be any extra effort on your part. We just want to test this and prove this idea. And they all said, yeah. And so that led to the very first ever Commons event. We had 142 students, I think, from 19 different colleges come together for a weekend event. They all pitched at the end. We had the mayor speak. It was a wild time, and that's what sort of led to this. The students wanted to keep going. We weren't sure what the students would want, but they really drove the program, and so that really is what led it to what it has become today.
That's incredible. I don't even know how you begin to like build and pitch something like that to such a like large amount of people. How was that experience for you? Kind of jumping into this whole new scene and just like building the Commons. How were you able to, I don't know, like what kind of kept you going as well?
I think we had, we had a real clear idea of what we were hoping to accomplish, and it wasn't necessarily the ins and outs of what does a curriculum look like and what does the program look like and when is it going to meet. But we had that sort of end goal in mind, which was, we've got some amazing talent coming out of these colleges and universities. How do we keep them here? And how do we get them connected to not only job opportunities, whether it's established companies or it's startups, but how do we get them connected to each other, and build those relationships? So we had this view of what we wanted that end result to be. And so the craziness of pitching to a bunch of academic leaders and whatnot was just sort of a means to an end. We knew we had to do those things in order to get what we really wanted, which was that end goal, that impact that we were really seeking and desiring at the time of starting the program. And so when you're nervous as trying to talk to these and lay out a vision, you just bear down and do it because you're motivated by what it could lead to. And I think that was a big thing for us, and that's what keeps us going. And what keeps us going too is people like you, Tara, that have gone through the program, that are now seeing success in Milwaukee and in your career, and you guys are wanting to give back to the next sort of cohorts behind you of Commons students. And so it's really kind of felt like a family kind of a feel to it, both in terms of the team that we've created and the people that run the Commons, but also in the environment that we strive to create among those who participate in the Commons.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of value and benefit in building something that is also like familial, especially with students. I think when they have a sense of whether it's like a sense of home or just the amount of comfort and support, I think it's easier for them to learn in such a new environment, and and it makes them want to stay and give back, like you said. Definitely always repping the Commons because it's just beneficial, and you just never know where an opportunity is going to take you or a conversation is going to take you. So I think that's super important.
I think that is you really hit the nail on the head there, Tara, and it speaks to the whole concept of these series of videos that you're doing, right? Because what's the old joke? If you want to make God laugh, you just tell him your plan, right? Like that's because plans and paths forward are like, you can start there, and that's a great place to start, but opportunity comes from a variety of different sources and in a variety of different ways. And if you open yourself up to that, those conversations and those cups of coffee or those Zoom meetings now, who knows where it could go. I mean, look at all the people. I'm number 56 or 54. Yeah. I mean, you've talked to 53 other people, and like, who knows, those are relationships now that are building, that are growing based on a 25-minute conversation you've had with people. And that is so much of at the core of what we do with the Commons, is not just teaching that curriculum, but like getting you to know the value of these sorts of interactions, even if they are virtual.
Yeah, agreed. It's the reason we kind of started this series is because right when COVID was really peaking and we started like quarantining, and then we saw that student, kind of like you guys, we saw that students were losing internships or there wasn't as many job opportunities. And it was like, okay, like maybe we can't necessarily, get them jobs, but how do we still provide them with value? And how do we show that, first, this series actually started as Career Crises in 10, the first episode. That's what it was called. And it was like interviewing people who graduated in a recession or like who have been laid off. And so that kind of, all those career changes. Because we wanted to show students that whether there's a pandemic, a recession, or whatever, like life, like you said, the planning, you can plan as much as you want, but you never know what's going to get thrown at you.
Yep. None of us planned for this, and that's pretty evident, unfortunately. But it is what it is, and so it's been kind of interesting to actually see the innovation that has come out of some of the hardships that we're all facing through all of this. And I think this is a great example of providing inspiration and value and resources for folks who might be in a tough spot right now. So kudos to you for doing this.
Thank you. Kudos to you too.
Thanks.
Do you mind talking a bit about maybe like when the Commons got started and what your perspective was and what you guys were doing with students, and now almost 6 years later, kind of how that's like evolved and your perspective now?
That's a great question. I think that in the beginning, we were really kind of geared towards helping students start up companies. And I think that while that remains that entrepreneurial mindset and the tools and resources to help students start up companies remains an element of the core of what we do, I think over the years we've sort of become less focused on here are the steps that you need to take and the resources that are available to help you start a business, and more focused on helping develop that mindset, the sorts of attributes that might identify someone as being equipped to be able to start their own business, maybe someday, maybe not now, maybe not in college, maybe not even 10 years after you graduate, but down the road. That thought process of how to solve a problem, how to understand a problem, how to make money off of solving a problem are, guess what, a whole lot of really valuable skills that any company would like somebody to have that works for their company. And so I think where we've started to kind of pivot towards and have pivoted towards is really focusing on those core skills. There are a tremendous amount of really great organizations in Milwaukee, from Generator to Young Entrepreneur Society, variety of resources at campuses locally that do great work to help students who really are geared towards starting their own business to do that. And so we like to play the role of finding those students. So if a student comes to us not knowing if they would ever start a company, but ends up having a really great idea and an incredible aptitude to do it, then we're like, these are the organizations you need to go to after us to continue to build that if you want to. And so that's kind of the role that we've played, is really helping students build their confidence, get out of their comfort zone, think creatively, solve those problems, figure out how to make money, and how to work with people, how to resolve conflicts, how to work on a team. All of those things are core skills that employers are looking for. And in the process, we've doubled down on the whole community aspect. We bring in nonprofits, we bring in speakers, leaders from the community to help students understand how the skills that they're learning in the Commons can also apply to solving social and neighborhood and community challenges as well. And that's a big piece that frankly has been driven by the students and our alumni more than anyone, because that's a question we were getting all the time. And we thought, boy, we could easily pull in some nonprofits in here and mix it up that way as well. And that's really what we've done a lot of over the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 years.
I love the collaboration between the other organizations too in Milwaukee. Like instead of maybe competing or just like doing your own thing separately, you guys are able to have like even grow the family even bigger and like, okay, like we'll teach you this, then go here to do this and that. Um, yeah, I think
It's
being a young person or just being a student, just being anybody in Milwaukee, it's great. It's a
it's
family
I
here.
mean, Milwaukee is amazing because we have so many people who think like entrepreneurs and so many people who care about our community. And that's why you have a lot of organizations and nonprofits that sprout up, because those two things come together and they can do a lot of good. And so, we started pulling together what we're calling the Milwaukee Talent Consortiums, 59 different talent development organizations in Milwaukee, which is incredible to think that there are that many organizations who are helping young people in particular develop their skills and answer that question of what's next for me.
Mhm.
And so by trying to pull those groups together and really create a pathway and kind of an interconnection between those groups, it makes it easier for young talent to be able to take advantage of the incredible opportunities that exist for them out there. There's no room for competition in a small city like Milwaukee. It's just kind of silly. We need to be working better together, because if we're all concerned about, only worrying about where our next paycheck is coming from, then that's not the place to be in. It's we got to be figuring out how we live out our mission, and help those that need the help, especially in the talent development space.
Kind of going off of that, how have you been able to, like working for a nonprofit and working for a startup and not always knowing if it's going to be successful or not? How have you been able to, I guess, maybe justify that risk of maybe not knowing where your next paycheck is coming from, or just like what's going to happen?
That's a good question. I think maybe I might be more risk tolerant, maybe, but I've also learned that, through the connections that I've made in the community through my job, there's a whole lot of people in town that are willing to help you out, and so, there's some built-in safety nets in Milwaukee, in the form of people who are going to help guide you, who are going to help answer some questions, who might help introduce you to people that might be the next thing. And so that's where that, networking skill is really important, if you want to do that. I think in a nonprofit, though, people who start and do nonprofits are motivated by their passion to solve whatever community challenge or issue or whatever that nonprofit is focused on. And I think that's what drives people to take risk in bigger ways, potentially, because like we did when we started the Commons, we knew what we wanted that end result to be, and it was so tangible to us. It was clear, but we just didn't know all the steps that needed to be taken to get to that point. We just knew we had something. And so part of it is risk tolerance, and part of it is just sort of closing your eyes and going a little bit, and so kind of trusting in those around you. I think, yeah, that's the other thing too, is the team, and people can't do these things alone. And so the value of a team and the people that you put around you is just incredibly important as well. And that's, no one of us within the Commons could run the Commons. It is this well-oiled machine that we have built in the form of the people that have come together to make this happen, and is really, I think, a huge part of what it takes to be able to tolerate that kind of risk.
Actually, interviewed Isabel last week, and she
You
said
did.
something similar. Yeah, she said something like 98% of the time, all of us are hands on deck and everything. Like it's never like, this is you, this is you. It's like, we're all in it, like a family. And she
Yeah.
mentioned how she met you at Camino, so it was fun.
Yeah, that's where I source talent, is at
Yeah.
local eateries, right? Yeah, no, Izzo was a great find for us. I remember, and nothing against my buddy Casey who owns Camino, but I said, "What are you doing here? Come work for us." And so she definitely has some incredible skills that she brings to the table. And she's right. It is, you know, it's a small team. There's four of us. So
Mhm.
we don't really have the luxury of staying in a lane. Everybody's kind of all just doing what needs to be done, and we're coordinated and you know, linked together in how we do it. It's not just like a free for all and chaotic, but you know, everybody steps in and helps out, and it is very much like a family feel.
I'd like to talk about your project, Light the Home, and how did that start? What kind of pushed you to want to do that? Maybe a little bit of background on the home for people who aren't from Milwaukee.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Light the Hone is an effort to install interactive LED lights on Milwaukee's iconic Hone Bridge. And It's a project that started probably about 4.5 years ago, for going on 5 now, as a passion project between myself and a buddy of mine, Ian. And it kind of came to be because we were thinking about starting kind of a young leaders group that would find emerging young leaders in Milwaukee and work towards connecting them with established current leaders in Milwaukee. And we wanted to call it home because we were like, let's bridge the generations, you know? And so our lawyers were like, yeah, that's a great idea. You got to talk to this guy, though, before you use this name. And he pointed us to the grandson of Daniel Hone, a guy by the name of Dan Steininger, who runs an entrepreneurial resource group in Milwaukee called Biz Starts. And
Oh,
so we knew Dan, and Dan was a buddy. And so it was an easy conversation. And Dan's like, yeah, of course, use the name, love the idea. And as Ian and I were walking out of Dan's office, he said, you know, one of the things your group should do is light up the Hone Bridge. And he shared with us a
mic
story of,
drop.
yeah, right. And that there had been attempts in the past to light the bridge during different construction projects. And, you know, things happen, politics, budgets, and those funds were pulled in the past. And so the bridge never got lit. And we walked out of there, and he and I are like, whatever, Dan, you know, crazy Dan and his ideas. And then like 2 weeks later, Ian and I were talking. I'm like, you know, man, I can't get that idea of lighting the hone out of my head. And, you know, there were a couple of things that happened at that time. We had just drafted Giannis, and it was like the first ESPN night game that was being nationally televised. And they were panning Milwaukee from like north to south, and the NM Tower was being built, and all these cranes were in the air, and the city looked beautiful and vibrant. And where they ended was in sort of this dark spot where the Hone is and the Harbor District is, and it just was sort of dark down there. And that was a moment where we were like, we gotta light that bridge. And so that's kind of how it started. But we had never done anything like that before. You know, we started doing some digging and connecting and really understanding what the cost was. You know, $4 million to do something like that. Like, could we even raise that kind of money? We didn't know what the hell we were doing. And so you talk about kind of the blind leading the blind and closing your eyes and just going. I mean, that was Ian and me with lighting the home for sure.
Wow.
But here we are now, and we're lighting the west side of the bridge. Um, Construction crews are up on the bridge starting on Monday. Today is Thursday, so a
Yeah.
couple of days from now they'll be up there, and this thing will be lit in time by October. So we'll be giving Milwaukee hopefully something this summer. We've had, it's been the year of non-events in our town, and so hopefully we can at least have a shining moment.
That's going to be incredible. And then could you talk a bit about the coding that goes into this and like the programming that goes along with it?
Yeah, so you know, from day one, we wanted this to be about more than lights on a bridge. We wanted this to be a community effort, and one way that we're doing that is through the Code the Hone program. The lights that we're installing are pretty cool. They can sync to live music. They can sync to recorded music. We can write APIs to connect them to the scoreboard at Miller Park or Fiserv Forum to react at certain points in a game, a home run, you know, a slam dunk, a touchdown at Lambeau, whatever the case might be. But that requires coding and skilled people to be able to do that. And we thought, what if we could turn the Hone into a teaching and learning tool? Why not teach coding concepts and even coding languages? Here's where my weirdly linear, nonlinear life comes full circle of being a former coder myself. So why not teach kids how to do this, and they can use the bridge as their guide, as their tool. And so that's exactly what we're doing. So we're partnering with Boys and Girls Club, with Sharp Literacy, with guys like artist Reggie Baylor and DJ Hines, who runs Destiny High School, and a whole bunch of people, and AmFam, to be able to like make this thing happen. And so our goal is to be able to allow primarily 5th through 12th graders the opportunity to get access to these learning modules, and they'll be able to actually submit their designs for bridge schemes, bridge light designs to us, where one night a week we want to highlight one of those student designs on the bridge itself. So what a cool way to like learn how to code. I learned how to code. I'm like you're in 7th grade, write a mortgage calculator. And I'm like, what's a mortgage? I don't know.
Oh,
But like
God.
if you now could do something like coding on a bridge that the whole
Yeah.
community could see, how cool is that?
I want to learn how to code and go back to high school.
We'll
That's
get
gonna
you
be
the
like
learning modules, Tara.
yeah, I would like to learn. That's
All
gonna be
right.
like the highlight of their life, maybe. I don't know. I can imagine just like kayaking on the Milwaukee River and then seeing your code light up on the Hone
Yeah.
Bridge.
Yeah.
Epic.
It is. And it's so Milwaukee, right? I mean, like why not? Yeah, it's going to be a nice addition to the skyline, and it's going to look great and glossy, like brochures about Milwaukee. But like, let's turn it into a community asset, like a real community asset, and teach kids skills. And imagine being in an interview for a software engineering position, and they're like, "So how'd you get into coding?" Well, I learned how to code using the Hone Bridge. Like that's, how cool would that be? So
Yeah.
I think it's better than my boring mortgage calculator story, that's for sure.
Yes, for sure. Thank you, Michael, for sharing about your nonlinear path of IT, nonprofit, coding, lighting the Hone, and more importantly, just the community you've built. I really appreciate it, and thank you for sharing with us.
And thank you, Tara. Thank you for doing this. This is, I think, a great series of videos, and I appreciate you asking me to do it. So good luck on getting to number 100.
Thank you.